Good morning. Good morning. It is an exciting day here in the city of Rochester, and we have some very special guests here with us today. And I'm going to pull a Don Alhart on everyone. And so when I say their name, just clap once, and in the end, we'll clap for everybody, okay? So we have ESD President and CEO Howard Zimsky. We have Senator Joe Robach. We have Assemblymember Harry Bronson. We have our Monroe County Executive Cheryl Donofo. We have our Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter. We have our Monroe County Legislature Cindy Cayley and members of the legislature. We have Rochester City Council President Loretta Scott, as well as members of City Council. We have Town of Brighton Supervisor Bill Maley. We have Town of Irondequoit Supervisor Dave Seeley. We have our County Clerk Adam Bello. We also have FLRDC co-chairs Bob Duffy and Ann Kress. We have Rochester and Genesee Valley Area Labor Federation Dan Maloney. Rochester Building Trades and Construction Council President Dave Young. Thank you. Let's give all of them a big round of applause. I am so happy to be here today to welcome Governor Andrew Cuomo back to downtown Rochester. Please, let's give him another big round of applause. Friends, I can say with certainty that no governor in modern history of our state has demonstrated such a commitment to upstate New York than Andrew Cuomo. Governor Cuomo is helping us create more jobs, safer, more vibrant neighborhoods, and better educational opportunities for our children. The governor's support for programs like the Upstate Revitalization Initiative, the Photonics Institute, and the Anti-Poverty Initiative is putting our region in a position to thrive in a 21st century economy. His women's agenda will advance equality and create new opportunities for women and girls across a wide range of topics, including health, safety, and workplace and family life. His democracy agenda will protect the right to vote and increase voter participation at a time when other states, and yes, our president, working to suppress the vote, especially in minority communities. He's helping us close the wage gap so women and minority workers can achieve economic equality. Governor Cuomo is helping us fight climate change, and if you live in Rochester, you know exactly what I mean. He is working to protect New York taxpayers from the effects of the GOP tax scam. And he has pledged his support for the Riverway program, an ambitious plan to revitalize the Genesee River. This progress we are seeing in our city would not be possible without the help and the support of our governor, Andrew Cuomo. And now it is my honor and truly my privilege to introduce the 56th governor of the state of New York, Rochester's greatest ally, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
That was beautiful. You all happy with the 50 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be back in Rochester. I had not heard that Don Alpert one clap thing before. State legislature has a refinement on that. When they introduce me, they just don't clap at all. I guess I didn't know it was a time-saving device, Joe. But I feel better about it now, knowing what it was. Let's give your great mayor a big round of applause for her great job. Your county executive, who's doing a great job. We're working on the Rochester Airport, and it's coming along great. Your senator, who's been a great partner, not just for Rochester, but he brings a voice of common sense to the entire state, Joe Robach. Good friend of mine and a great assemblyman for you, Harry Bronson. Let's give him a round of applause. We have our ESD, Economic Development Czar, guru, and also the administration's wit and humor and wisdom in one package, Howard Zemsky. And Ann Kress and Bob Duffy, let's give them a big round of applause and thank them for everything they do. Bob Duffy was under the weather this week. He got out of a sick bed, attacked by the flu, to be here today. When Bob Duffy was lieutenant governor, he never got sick. I want you to know that. That's one of the perils of going into the private sector. Sickness descends upon you. Never happened when he was lieutenant governor. Also, I believe public service actually suspends the aging process. So the years in public service, you actually don't age. All the people tell me that I look younger today than I did 5 years ago. Of course, all those people happen to work for me, but I don't think it would cloud their judgment. But Bob Duffy, who's been a great mayor, great lieutenant governor, great public servant, and his contribution continues. Give him a round of applause. Let's talk about this year. As the mayor said, there's a lot going on this year on many levels. We did the 2019 budget, which is our overall blueprint for the year. It's now beginning conversations with the legislature. We start with driving business, creating jobs, because that's the engine that pulls the entire train. If you're not creating jobs, you're going backwards, and that's about fiscal discipline and a new attitude towards attracting business, investing in economic development infrastructure, helping the middle class with another tax cut, investing in education because it's the educated workforce that wins in this country, fighting sexual harassment against women, criminal justice reform, a democracy agenda, and then defending against the federal tax reform acts. On fiscal discipline, for years, New York State was seen as anti-business. Number one reason was high taxes. Why are there high taxes? Because there's high spending. It's very easy. Why am I putting on weight? Because you are eating too much. Caloric intake adds to weight gain. Very simple formula. Very difficult to do something about it, but the formula is simple. We spent too much money in the state of New York. Well, that's you Democrats spend too much money. Not the Republicans, they don't like to spend money, says Joe Robach. Not true, Joe Robach. Highest, this is actually a frightening chart. However, in my job, nothing frightens me anymore. So high spending has gone on in the state of New York for over 50 years. Governor Nelson Rockefeller, spending annual average 11% increase every year. You carry 7.9% increase every year. Mario Cuomo, my father, God rest his soul, 6.9% every year. George Pataki, Republican, 12 years, 5.2% every year. During that period of time, the inflation rate was 4%. If the inflation rate is 4%, how is government spending above the inflation rate every year? Incomes aren't going up at that level. Nothing's going up at that level. Just government spending. You do that for 50 years, people understand that you're taking a bigger and bigger piece of their paycheck. And that ends in people saying, I'm going to find a different place to live. And when you wonder what happened to New York State, especially upstate New York, it could not tolerate those levels of spending increases. We said we were going to turn around, and we did. 7 years, our spending rate has been 1.4%. How can that be? Fiscal discipline, discipline, discipline. How do you lose weight? You eat less, but it's hard. I know it's hard. 1.4%. Everybody likes to spend money. Everybody has a good idea. The legislature likes to spend money. We have to correct for the past, and we have. Now, what happens when you spend less? Same thing when you eat less. You lose weight. Spend less, you can lower taxes. We lower taxes all across the board. Every tax rate today is lower than the day I took office. Every tax rate is lower. Lowest middle class tax rate since 1947. Lowest middle class tax rate since 1947, lowest manufacturer's rate since 1917, lowest corporate tax rate since 1968. At the same time, we had money to invest in economic development and infrastructure, because unless you are investing, you are falling behind. This is an economic competition among the states like I have never seen before. Every business is being courted by every state. And they're getting calls saying, if you move to my state, I'll do this, this, and this. When we have a competition trying to attract a business here, every other state is actually bidding against us. So you want to continue to grow, you have to be investing with these private sector companies, otherwise you don't have a chance. The overall strategy, lower taxes, focus on regional growth, and invest in the slower economic regions. The slower economic regions were in upstate New York. The truth is, for many years, Albany state government was focused on downstate New York. Why? Because most of the legislature is from downstate New York. And the legislature's instinct is to focus on their home district, right? Harry Bronson likes the Bronx, but Harry Bronson is there to bring things back to his district. And the majority of the legislature was from downstate. Downstate got the majority of the help. Bob Duffy and I came in and said, that may be great, but upstate New York is where you actually need the help, because upstate New York is hemorrhaging jobs. And at the end of the day, we're one state, we're one balance sheet, we're one family, and if upstate New York isn't doing well, it's at downstate New York's cost. And they understood that. The formula has been working. Statewide, we now have 8 million private sector jobs, highest number of jobs in the history of the state of New York. That's what 8 million jobs is. 27,000 new jobs in the Finger Lakes, not counting Bob Duffy's job. Unemployment is down to 5.1%, drop from 8% just 7 years ago. We've invested in projects all across upstate New York because I believe there's a synergy among the upstate regions. Finger Lakes, yes, but if Buffalo's doing better and Syracuse is doing better, there's going to be a combined effect. Record investment in upstate New York, $36 billion. Never before in the history of the state have they provided that much funding for upstate New York. It's working all across the state because you see unemployment coming down all across the state. The old job picture, you would see downstate attracting jobs, New York City, and you'd see upstate losing. Not anymore. Upstate's doing well and downstate is doing well. Here in Rochester, companies like AIM Photonics, Luminate, the new Photonics Attraction Fund, which is really the next generation building on Kodak, etc. Genesee Breweries, HP Hood, 230 jobs, Paychecks expanding, 600 jobs. The winery industry, which we created in this state by changing the rules, by changing the regulations, has exploded. Finger Lakes is now the largest wine region in the state. It drives tourism, it drives commerce, it's been a great success. Rochester Data Consortium expanding 180 new jobs, Datto 350 jobs, a new tech company, American Packaging, and we've been investing in infrastructure. Because infrastructure, everyone has said forever, the new infrastructure drives the economy, and they've been exactly right. No one has done it, but everybody has said it. We're actually doing it. New Rochester Airport, which is going to be exquisite and is on track to be done this year, and I applaud the county executive and her team. New Rochester train station, access route at 390, downtown revitalization grants in Geneva and Batavia, Letchworth State Park, which is a phenomenal asset that we have not fully exploited the capacity of it. Anyone who goes to Letchworth State Park comes back and says, I'm blown away. Who knew that it was there? Well, it's there and it's beautiful, and we invested $16 million to improve it. The welcome centers that actually advertise what we have and where we have it. So tremendous investment, showing results, but we're not done yet. The Genesee River, Rochester's waterfront, has long been the economic engine of Rochester. Jenny Beer, Xerox, etc., it all came from the river. Manufacturing cities were born from the river. That was the access road, Erie Canal. Yes, and the riverfront is still a potential for development. When I was HUD secretary, I used to talk about the cities, older cities, have to turn themselves around. The river was the back door to the city. That's where the goods came in and the barges came in and the garbage went out. Now you have to flip it, where the river is the front door, because it's no longer the manufacturing corridor, but it is the #1 attraction for redevelopment. You look at cities that did spectacular redevelopments around the country, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Providence, they took that waterfront and they used it as the magnet and the attraction, and they built from the waterfront out. You have a phenomenal potential to do just that. That's what we did in Buffalo with the waterfront, a project they call Canal Side. Since 2011, tourism has increased tenfold, 1.5 million visitors. Just think about it. In 2016 alone, taking what was always there but was undeveloped. The Genesee River is poised for redevelopment, and you're building and attracting a new market now. Remember, we lost young people for a lot of years. We want those young people coming back, the millennials. They have a different lifestyle. They're not looking for the house out in the suburbs with the backyard and the patio and the barbecue grill. They actually like urban environments with activity, with energy, and with urban transportation, so they don't have to sit in a car for 45 minutes to commute into the office. Build for that generation. And the waterfront and entertainment and housing, that's the mix that's working, especially for millennials. Rock the Riverway is a project that we're very excited about. I thought it was spelled incorrectly, but you want to spell it R-O-C, God bless you. I believe in deferring to local government, even if it defies the rules of grammar and spelling. So whatever you want, Mayor. But it is a partnership between the city and the state to redevelop the Riverway. Reestablish Genesee River as the centerpiece of downtown revitalization. Leveraging public dollars to leverage private sector investment and private sector growth. There are many good ideas that have already been proposed. 30 potential projects have been identified by the city and the community groups, like really expanding Charles Carroll Park and making it something special, and reimagining it to the Genesee Gateway Park, same thing, really accessing the waterfront, redoing the convention center. I was just shown a picture inside of my father cutting the ribbon on this convention center, and it was a beautiful project, and it still is a beautiful project, but you need to evolve and change and modernize, and the time is now, and nothing would make me happier by cutting the new ribbon on the redone convention center that my father started. High Falls has more potential. The Broad Street Aqueduct could really serve as a centerpiece of the downtown, a year-round public venue bringing people. But a revitalized waterfront can spur restaurants, housing, mixed-use development. Again, it's been done all over the country. It works. Visit Buffalo. It works. And building and revitalizing the downtown is still the core. We're very excited about it. I think it's a great idea. We want to partner. We're going to put $50 million on the table to make it a reality. It is an investment. I believe it's going to reap dividends. The $36 billion we put up into upstate New York has been an investment, and it is reaping dividends. It's in the job growth. It's in young people coming back. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. We'll create a Rock the Riverway, misspelled, advisory board comprised of local stakeholders. Bob Duffy and Ann Kress are going to lead it. And let's give them a round of applause. They have to come up with a comprehensive plan that has a strategy for the entire revitalization that makes it all work as one, recreation and housing and commercial and private sector partners who are putting their money on the table, leveraged by our $50 million, and making sure it's all holistically planned so everything we need is there. One piece complements the other. And their job is to come up with that plan. It is, I don't want to say it's easy to do, because there's a lot of work, but you have that beautiful natural asset. You're in downtown, you're in Rochester. Growth is already going on. There's a lot to build on. There's a lot of private sector interest in participating. We have $50 million investment capital. You just have to put the pieces together. We hope to have their proposals done in 3 months. I don't even think it should take 3 months, to tell you the truth, but I want to be reasonable. Once a day, I'm reasonable, and this was it. 3 months to get the revitalized plan, and then we'll go from there. Also in the budget, we propose a tax cut again for the middle class. Federal government was supposed to do a middle class tax cut. Didn't turn out that way. 80% of the tax cut goes to the top 1%. This is a real middle class tax cut. $40,000 to $150,000 goes from 6.4 to 5.5. 150 to 300 goes to 6%. The middle class is feeling the pain. Reach out to them. They're the centerpiece of our economy. We've been cutting taxes. This is another tax cut right for the middle class, and they deserve it, and I think they're going to appreciate it. We continue to increase our investment in education, $26 billion, total of $6.8 billion. This is, again, talking about investment. We went from 2012, we were at 19 billion, we're now at $26 billion. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're investing in education. We have a growth cap. We're actually doubling the growth cap this year. We also have a program I'm very excited about, which is for families making up to $110,000. That sounds like a lot of money. We will offer scholarships at SUNY schools. Why? Because family making $110,000, SUNY school can still cost, when you're at the end of the day, $20,000, $30,000 when you add up all the costs. You have 2 kids going to school, that's $60,000. It just doesn't work on a $110,000 salary. And I don't want any child to be denied the opportunity to go to college when they get in on their merits, or have to go face a mountain of debt that strangles them for the first 30 years of life. We talk about helping the middle class. This helps the middle class. We'll pay for the college education at our SUNY schools for middle class families. And I think that's another big boost for the middle class. Fight sexual harassment against women. This is not a New York issue, it's a national issue. Obviously, it's broken out through all the media. It's amazing how it's been every industry, one after the other. Almost every day there's another horrific case, often by a high-profile person. And what it's saying to us as a society is, sexual harassment is deep-rooted. It's been going on for a long time. No one has done anything about it. It's in every business sector. It's been done by some of the most respected personalities, and it's been done with immunity. And there was a sense that women were not empowered to come forward, and it was endured for a lot of years. It's a terrible, terrible reflection on ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror. Well, on this one, it's hard for society to look in the mirror and say, yes, this is who we are and this is what we did. The flip side is there are moments where you can bring about change in life, where the awareness among people is so universal and the outrage is so universal, where people will say, you know what, it was wrong and we're going to do something about it. The state that should step into that moment and show leadership is the state of New York, because that's what we do. And we propose the most aggressive program to protect women in the nation. I want to pass it this year and then say to the other states, this is the direction that we should be going. We start by looking at our own house, prohibit taxpayer funds from being used for a public official's liability for sexual harassment. If a public official does something wrong in their personal capacity, taxpayers shouldn't pay the bill. Prohibit state and local governments from entering into secret non-disclosure agreements. You can protect a woman's identity, but you don't have to protect the offender. Require companies that do business with the state to disclose the number of sexual harassment and non-disclosure agreements they've entered into. Clarify JCOPE, which is an independent investigatory agency in the state. They have the sophistication and the expertise to do it. And let's come up with one sexual harassment policy that every government in the state follows. State, city, town, I don't care what it is. One policy, one protection program for women, and every government in the state follows that program. Let's get it done this year, and let's lead the way. We want to reform the criminal justice system. The bail system relies on money. When you see the statue of Lady Justice, She's blindfolded and she's holding a scale of justice. The point is, justice is blind, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter your wealth. Justice is on the merits. Except our bail system is based on money. And if you can make bail, you walk. And if you can't make bail, you go to jail. Well, then the justice system is not blind, and it's not fair. And it shouldn't be about how much money you can afford or how much money your daddy has who can bail out his child. We want to eliminate the money and make it very simple. Make the decision on the merits. If the person should be held because they're a risk to public safety or they're a risk to flight, hold them. I don't care how rich they are, I don't care how poor they are. If they're not a risk, then release them on their own recognizance, but get money out of the equation. That's the fundamental reform here. We want to enact a democracy agenda. Let people vote. Let people be included in the process. You have all this anger, all this cynicism. Why is it so hard to vote in the state of New York? I went through this with my daughters who are coming back from college, trying to get them to register to vote. You have to register to vote like 10 years before the election. I mean, this is the most arcane system ever. Why? Why are we making it hard for people to vote? Let people vote. Make it easy. Faster registration, longer time to vote. Why does it have to be 1 day? Other states have early voting. Let's get it done in the state of New York. Last point is defending against the federal tax increase. Now, federal government passed tax reform. President signed it in December. Put the merits of it aside, philosophy of it aside. I don't agree with it as a matter of philosophy. I think it was too geared towards the higher earners, with 80% going to the top 1%. It was a corporate tax cut, 40%, that they say, well, we think maybe the corporations will give the money to the workers in terms of higher wages. Yeah, maybe they will. Or maybe they'll put it in their pocket, or maybe they'll give the CEO a higher salary, or maybe they'll take a vacation to France. If you actually wanted to give the worker higher wages, you could have done that. You would have said, I'm giving the corporation a 40% tax break, but half of it must go to the workers in higher wages. Half of it must go to new jobs. That's what you would have done if you wanted to do it. Their concept is trickle down on steroids. Give the money to the corporation, they'll know best, and they'll do with it. And then they celebrate these individual cases. Here's a company that actually gave higher wages, almost like they were surprised that they did it. Well, I thought that was the whole point. And why didn't you mandate that in the tax cut? But I don't want to get into that. Whether or not you agree with the tax cut. The tax plan has a special provision targeted at New York and 12 other states, where it removes the deduction for your state and local taxes. Right now, you pay a state income tax, you pay your property tax, and then you pay your federal tax. And the state tax and the property taxes are deducted from your income before you pay your federal tax. This reverses that. It says you pay your state tax and your property tax, and the federal government is then going to tax the amount of taxes you paid in property taxes and income tax. It is the first double taxation in history, because you're literally taxing the tax. The first income tax in the country was passed by Abraham Lincoln to pay for the war. In Abraham Lincoln's tax bill, he writes, certainly the state and local taxes are deducted from the federal government first. When Lincoln passes the tax bill, the chairman of the Ways and Means says, of course you deduct state and local taxes first. Otherwise, it would be double taxation. You would be taxing the taxes, and that's absurd. Since Lincoln's bill, it's been that way. This bill changes it. Why? Because they needed money to fund the tax cut. So they went to 12 states, New York #1 among them, all 12 coincidentally Democratic, coincidentally states that Trump lost, and they ended state and local deductibility, which makes the federal government more money, and they use that to finance the tax cuts in other states. It costs us, our state, $14 billion more in taxes. New York is already the #1 donor state to the federal government. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, God rest his soul, used to get infuriated. You know, he'd get his Irish up and his face would turn all red. We send $48 billion more to Washington than we get back. #1 donor state. Nobody sends more to Washington without having it returned than the state of New York. This adds an additional $14 billion to that. We've been working hard to cap property taxes because it's the #1 tax in the state. Property taxes are 2.5 times your state income tax. You're mad about taxes? Don't be mad at me. I cut them, and the state income tax is the small tax. We capped property taxes at 2%. Been great progress. This, in one fell swoop, wipes out all the progress, raises property taxes 25%, raises your income taxes 25%. Puts New York at a structural disadvantage to every other state that is out there. It has to be changed. We're doing two things. First, we're trying to make changes on the state level to prevent the federal changes from having an effect. But it is outrageous. New York and California were primary targets for raising money to pay for the tax cut. It's the first tax on a tax. If the state does not act, everybody's taxes go up 25%. I want Harry and Joe to hear this. Old adage, a legislator who does nothing wrong. Meaning, if you're unsure, do nothing, and that's normally the safest course. Also holds true for life. Not in this case. If the legislature does not act, every New Yorker gets a 25% tax increase. If the legislature does not act, everyone gets a 25% tax increase. Here you have a person standing on a track, and the train is coming down the track. And if you don't get off the track, you may think doing nothing is the safest alternative. Not when the train is bearing down on you. And the train is now bearing down on us. So we're trying to do two things on the state side. Switch from an income tax to a payroll tax. They won't allow you to deduct your income tax. They do allow deductibility of a payroll tax. So we would shift from an income tax to a payroll tax. It's revenue neutral, but rather than taxing the income an individual receives, it taxes the salary the employer pays. Same numbers, but the employer can deduct the payroll tax 100%, where the individual can't deduct the income tax. So it gets the employee the same amount of income, the employer pays the same amount, but it gets around this federal penalty. We also are going to try to set up charitable contributions for local governments. Right now you pay property taxes. The property taxes are non-deductible. But a local government could set up a charitable not-for-profit organization for funding schools, for example. And if you contribute to that charity, you get a tax deduction and a tax credit from the state. So the deductibility they're trying to take away, we would actually get if we set up charitable institutions. But again, these are very difficult tax reforms. They're revenue neutral, but they're very complicated, and it involves a rewriting of the code. And I'm appealing to the legislature saying, I know it's a difficult task, but if we do not do it, everyone's taxes go up 25%. And we just spent the past 7 years killing ourselves to keep down spending, to keep down taxes, property tax cap. This wipes it all out in a day. It's unfair, it was political, but it's the train coming down the tracks, and the state has to act. On a second level, we're doing everything we can to stop it. There's a bipartisan bill moving in Congress that would repeal it. We think it is illegal, and we're joining with other states in suing the federal government because we believe it's unconstitutional. But this has to be stopped because we have so much going for us, and we've made so much progress. I don't want to allow this move by the federal government to slow down the train. It's not partisan. Your taxes go up, whether you're Democrat, Republican, short person, tall person, good looking, not so good looking, funny, not so funny. It's everybody. I said when I was arguing with the Congress about this, I said, I'm a Democratic state. I said, yeah, I'm a majority Democratic state. But there are Republicans in the state of New York, too. And this hurts everybody. You know, this sends a missile to New York State, well, you're a blue state. Yeah, except everybody gets hurt. And that's Democrats, Republicans, independents, et cetera. It's the worst type of politics. We have to put the politics aside. We have to unify. We have to fight with one voice. We have to push back this setback because we have too much going for us. We have turned around every arrow that matters. Taxes were going up, jobs were going down, unemployment was going up, upstate investment was going down. We've changed all the arrows, all the momentum. We just have to keep it going. And when New Yorkers are united, there is nothing that can stop us. And we are going to do exactly that together. Thank you, and God bless you.
It's all good. Hello. Hey, everyone. Great to be here in Rochester. I want to start with acknowledging that the governor has gotten younger over the years. I've seen this firsthand. And somewhat to my chagrin, he's also gotten funnier over the years, which is sort of threatening my job security, I feel. I sort of had that niche for a while. So just keep that in mind. The more you laugh at his jokes, the less likely you are to see me. What happened to Zemsky? Well, the governor got funnier. Doesn't really need him anymore. I want to recognize, and I'm very proud to head Empire State Development, and I want to recognize Vinny Esposito, who does a great job. was going to say, just give Vinny 2 claps, but you did way better. And I want to recognize an ESD board member who's here from Rochester, Hilda Rosario Escher. Good stuff. I'm your upstate cousin. I live in Buffalo, and I had the opportunity. I first got involved with the governor through the REDC, and it was very competitive, as you know. We're always competing with each other, and I kind of had that attitude about Rochester. It was very not friendly. It was like, we're going to win versus you're going to win. But then when I got the ESD job, my whole attitude changed, because I actually learned a lot more about Rochester than I ever knew. And it's important to just remind many of you that Rochester is an amazing city when you look at it, not only when you spend time here, the fabulous people that they have here, but when you look at innovation, which is so important to the growth of the economy. Rochester and the Finger Lakes leads in so many important measures: venture capital raised, startup businesses, STEM degrees, patents issued. You are the innovation capital of upstate New York, and being the innovation capital of upstate New York, it's important, and it bodes well for the economy of this region. And when you combine the innovation capital of upstate New York with the downtown revitalization capital and what's happening in Rochester and what the mayor is imagining and what the governor is enabling, then you have an incredibly potent 1-2 combination. Because when you talk to businesses today all across the state and say, what can the state of New York do to help? You know what the number one thing companies are saying today are? I need to keep and recruit young people. The more you can do to make downtown a cool area and a desirable area has the greatest impact on our business than any other thing you can do. And that's what the governor is doing here today. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Rochester has become the number 5 most attractive city for hipsters. That's good news. We lost our young people in all of these upstate cities like crazy. If you lose your young people demographically, you have continued economic decline and population decline baked in your demographic cake. You have to keep and attract young people. And when I got involved with ESD, and I asked Vinny, I said, introduce me to some of the cool local indigenous ideas revolved around downtown revitalization. He said, okay, I'm going to introduce you to Greentopia. I said, Greentopia? I tried Greentopia in college, actually. I said, I don't do Greentopia anymore. I don't know what you think I'm talking about. But so I did meet Greentopia, and you know, it was reminiscent of the kinds of ideas that have had such a big impact where I live, where people's attitude about their city and the way they think about their future changes. We're going to do that here in Rochester. It's an important part of what the governor referred to as holistic economic development. We're excited to do it and to be partners with you. When you think about his approach to economic development, tradable sectors of the economy, workforce development, you've got a fabulous co-chair in Ann who really leads the way. And you can give her a hand, absolutely. And Bob Duffy, give him at least 5 claps. Workforce, innovation, tradable sectors, and downtown revitalization. That's how we think about it. And you overlay the governor's fiscal discipline and investment in infrastructure. You do not turn around any of these upstate cities in a year or two. They declined for 40 years. And there is no silver bullet, no one magical project. But you know, and I know, everyone in this room knows, and everyone in the Finger Lakes, I think, now knows, this type of approach, sticking with it every day, is having a transformative effect and changing the trajectory of the economy here. And that's why I am so proud and pleased. And believe me, I don't get rich doing this job, but working for the governor who has that kind of commitment to upstate, who drew a line in the sand and said, we are not doing the decline thing anymore, has been the most gratifying thing I've ever done in my career. And it's been a great pleasure, continues to be a great pleasure and honor to work with him. And he often says that economic development is a team sport, and it is, and we have great partners in the legislature, and it gives me great honor to introduce Senator Joe Robach.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. And Howard, you're first going to have to do a little housekeeping. Somebody's going to have to tell Bob Duffy. We went to school together, the same era. He's not a hipster. But seriously, we're always happy to be here. I would agree with the governor. It is important to be as collaborative as we can when there's good things. And I would say this too. Long before we had this governor, it has been a chorus of mine for a long time. I believe in fairness, equity, parity, and it seemed to me money going out the door oftentimes was headed south, very rarely north or west. But working together in a collaborative way, we have turned that around today. So this, I want to applaud everybody, the governor, the legislature for putting the funds in place, the mayor and city council. This is a great, an ambitious, but great plan. Rock the Riverway. It is true. I grew up on the banks of the Genesee River on the other end, on the northern end, and there's no question. I think our entire water system is almost taken for granted, all the natural water we have here. I don't travel very much, but in San Antonio, they have what would be the equivalent of a creek or a stream here, and they've driven so much economic development and festivals and things about a creek that pales in comparison to our great river, our lake, our canal. It's just simply the truth. So this is really great that we're all working together to polish this, and we want to make those the golden banks of the Genesee River. And investing in this infrastructure, public access, public-private partnerships is not only going to add to jobs, but I think as Howard and the governor have said, I think will also add to a lot more people to access those things. Those new additions will want to live down here too, which is really, really important. We're growing more and more people living downtown. The more foot traffic you have, the more events you have, the more that will continue the good circle and ripple out well. So this is a great day. Anytime we can deliver and work with our colleagues in local government, but this is clearly a win for everybody in our entire region and community, and it wouldn't happen without everyone working together. So I thank everyone from the governor, the mayor, all my colleagues on down for working and making this happen. It is important. Anytime we can bring back $1 here that's going to make something better, add to jobs, make our community more beautiful and beneficial, it's a win, and we should celebrate it. They don't happen every day, but when we can, we do, and we will continue. Right, Governor? All right. Thank you. On the collaborative front, it is now my pleasure to introduce a colleague of mine from the State Assembly who I know, whether it's legislation or any kind of capital projects, when we need the 1-2 punch in both houses, I know Harry always works hard for Rochester as well. Please give a hand to my colleague, Assemblyman Harry Bronson.
It's So it's my honor to be here today, and I want to share with you a joke, since telling jokes is what's important. And it's not my joke. It was going to be Senator Robach's joke, and it was that he wanted everybody here to know that he still is willing to collaborate with me and work with me, notwithstanding I ran against him in 2002. And he says we're still friends, and I think the last part was the joke part. Actually, it's an honor to work with the senator and all my colleagues in the legislature, and with the governor and with the mayor, especially on this project. We have a lot of work to do between now and when we ultimately pass the final state budget, but Governor Cuomo has put forth a very thoughtful budget, and a budget that, at its core, delivers for New Yorkers. It delivers because it will continue to cut taxes for middle-class families, and really standing up for New York's values. And the governor talked about some of those values here, about making sure that we treat everybody with equality and making sure that they have opportunities. Many of you have heard me say this before, and I'll keep repeating it because we haven't reached the ideal. No matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, or who you love, we all have dignity, and we all deserve an opportunity to succeed. The governor's budget will put us on a path so that everyone here in New York State can succeed. He will do this by not only the tax issues that he talked about, but also strategic investments in infrastructure and investment in economic development. And one of those economic development engines, and also to make our community better, is Rock the Riverway. And I thank you, Mayor, for your vision and putting that forward, and for your ability to come to the state and get $50 million. This is the future of Rochester. This will be a place where not only young people, but everyone in our community will be able to come, visit, enjoy the open space, but also it will be a stimulus to increase business years, restaurants, commercial businesses, and residential. So Rock the Riverway is an initiative that I think we all should get behind. We should push forward and make sure this happens. But we also have to continue to make sure that we have New York State go down the path that over the last 7 years it has gone down, and that is make sure that we're investing in upstate New York. Make sure we're investing in economic development, because at the end of the day, it's not just about helping companies, it's not just about that private-public partnership. It's all about creating jobs, because jobs is the ways that people can have a quality of life. So thank you very much, Governor, and thank you, Mayor.
$50 million, Rochester. Yes. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. I remember you telling a story one time you came to visit about how there was this farmer who was waiting. There was a storm coming, and he was waiting there, and they sent in the police and said, come on, get on board. There's a storm coming. And then they sent in all these people. He's like, nope, God will provide. God will provide. And he made it all the way to heaven. And God's looking at him like, what are you doing here? And I'm just telling you that you knocked on our door, and I'm the first person that you sent through, Vinny Esposito, his team, with our team. We walked through that door. We truly appreciate you for your support. We believe that God sent us a governor that truly cares about upstate New York. You are delivering for us. We appreciate all of your support. Let's give it up for Governor Cuomo. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.